Hello everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candace Marie, I'll be your astrologer today. Thank you for joining me. Very excited to be back to be doing the monthly address for the month of April 2022. Just a heads up guys, this may be a longer video than usual. I was going back and forth and debating whether or not I do two separate videos for the month ahead and the new moon in Aries, and you're gonna get both. So hopefully you're in a comfortable spot where you can kick back and have something to drink or maybe a snack and take a listen. Those of you guys who like and enjoy my channel, please make sure that you are subscribed. Make sure you click the bell button below so you're alerted when I have new content. We've got new content coming out on the channel pretty much every couple days now. I have a goal that I have set in motion to be able to, by the end of summer, closer to August, maybe September, be able to create content every day for this channel. So far, we're at 4 days. So because of your guys' shares, your memberships, your donations, subscriptions, we've seen immense growth on Beyond the Veil on YouTube. And I just want to say thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's so great getting to interact with all of you guys and just see this channel grow. So thank you very much. Also, those of you guys who are interested in joining memberships, I have memberships available. There's 3 tiers. Take a look at my community tab, see what I have to offer. You can get in and just donate if you enjoy my weekly forecast, if you enjoy my moon messages, and everything else that I'm doing for this channel. We've been able to do new things like horoscopes. So if you guys haven't checked out the horoscopes for April already, they are live. I talk about all of the most important transits for each and every one of the 12 rising signs, as well as tarot. So it's going to be much more specific to what's going on with your guys' sun and rising signs. And if you like my style of astrology, you want to learn how to read astrology on a beginner's level. Maybe you want to be able to better understand charts or understand certain archetypal placements in a chart or the planets or aspects. Join me. I'm going to be teaching my brand new Beginners 101 astrology course starting on April 3rd. It's going to go for several weeks. We're going to be meeting on Sundays and Thursdays in a live Zoom classroom setting, basically. I'm offering $100 off for anybody who wants to sign up. It looks like we've got 4 spots left for my courses. If you guys miss it, you can't make it, no worries. We're going to be putting it on the website so people can actually pick that up and do the program at their own pace later this year. Equally, if your schedule doesn't match up, no worries. You can also work at your own pace. So if you want to join me for that, that would be awesome. Eventually, it's going to evolve into intermediate and advanced courses. So if you want to learn with me all the way through, totally cool. Working on some tarot courses coming soon as well. My bookings start in May of 2022, but man, things are going to get heated up this month between eclipses and all kinds of squares to the nodes. This is a very karmic time. So if you would like to book a session with me, check out my links below. Check out my website at beyondtheveiltarot.com. Would love to see you and love just getting to interact with all these new clients that have been coming from YouTube land. All right, so we're gonna do things a little bit differently. Usually I take a whole hour to talk about each one separately. We're gonna do both. I wanna start first with the new moon in Aries. Then we will get into the most important transits for the month of April, my interpretation of the energies, things that you should watch out for, some of the signs, the omens. We're gonna talk about Sabian symbols. We're also gonna talk about ways that you can work with this new moon to transmute anger, and just some advice that I would give to some of you guys when it comes to doing things ritually for this new moon, because this is a very important one. It's the very first new moon since the astrological new year, now that the sun is in the sign of Aries. When we're done, then we're going to talk about all of April's monthlies, and I'm going to pull cards for each and every one of the 12 signs, talk to you guys a little bit about where the new moon is taking place, what I see for you, as well as where these karmic conjunctions to Saturn and Aquarius are happening, where you are taking a quantum leap forward. I guess that's like the best way that I could describe it, you know? God bless all the YouTube astrologers. There's so many animated people out there who are like, your life's gonna change, everything's gonna be different, like every month. I wish I had that kind of like momentum. I feel like I'm more like a cheerleader for Saturn, you know? I have my passport that says I've been to Saturn and back. So you're gonna get a little bit more kind of grounded perspectives from me. But to be honest with you, I have been looking at these transits for the better part of the last several years, knowing that what was setting up in the month of March, April, May of 2022 was going to be global shifts, big shifts in awareness, quantum leaps forward, kind of diving more so into, I think, what our life is meant to be and rewriting what the story has been thus far. So I'm really excited to get into this and talk to you guys about this today. Now, just some like notes that I put. I'm going to seem a little all over the place, but I've got lots of notes for some of these transits. Things that I was reflecting on when I was looking at this new moon in Aries, which is going to be coming in on March 31st, 2022. So you want to make those intentions for most of you guys, ideally on the evening, Thursday evening, depending on where you live. So it'll be March 31st, 2022. That is going to be taking place here on Pacific time. Get my notes. 11:24 p.m. Pacific time, so that's 2:24 a.m. Eastern on April 1st, so it'll be the day after. Obviously, I know we've got people all over the world, so adjust your time depending on where you are. Please check your time zones, and it's coming in hot at 11 degrees of Aries. So reflecting and kind of thinking about this is some stuff that came up for me in meditation is something I keep hearing over and over. There's two themes, both in clients. I've been saying it to myself. I've been picking this up and just hearing people, you know, out and about at like the market and things that people are saying online. Number one is I've had enough. I've had enough of this. I'm at my wit's end, or I've had enough. I'm at my breaking point. A lot of that is because of the Saturn-Mars conjunctions that are setting up. But the number two phrase, which I think is a little bit more positive and quite frankly, more kind of embodying what this new moon is about is now the time? Is it the time? Are we there yet? Are we ready to go? Is this a dress rehearsal? Nope, it's time to move forward. There's going to be a real emphasis in the next week or two on whether or not we are transmuting anger and rising above certain situations that are going on in our own personal lives and globally. Something else that came up, I have like this weird relationship with the planets. Like sometimes when I sit down to like write these lectures and I go back and forth with them, I'll get like little funny, like little tidbits that'll come up that's like, hey, talk about this. And something that came up for me is everybody is going to boil at different degrees, right? We think of Aries, we think of heat, we think of Mars, and whether that's like blood boiling or our boiling point or getting to a point where then something just kind of boils over. But the fixed signs especially this month are going to feel cooked. So that's just something I want you to know. To be honest with you, nobody gets a pass when planets conjunct Saturn, especially when it's in the later degrees of Aquarius, because there's going to be global limitations, things that we're going to kind of come up against. But especially when planets square the nodes, it's saying, hey guys, everybody on planet Earth, it's time to evolve. It's time to actually rise our vibrations and also focus more on the goals that we're setting for ourselves. So that way, the more that we're holding ourselves accountable, we're going to see change all across the board. But especially for those fixed signs. So if you are somebody who is a Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, or Aquarius, rising, sun, or moon, you are going to feel this big time. Equally, if you're somebody who's very Venusian, very Mars, or very Saturnian, this is going to be a time that you're going to feel it as well. So maybe you have a stellium of planets in Libra or Taurus. Maybe you have a fixed sun, moon, or rising. Maybe you just have a real emphasis in the second, the seventh house, maybe the 10th house. So if you embody any of those kind of energies in your natal chart, pay attention. One other question I have for you guys, and it's something that I would be meditating on, especially revolving around the time of the new moon, is how hard are you willing to fight for your dreams, right? How hard are you willing to fight for your dreams? This is going to be a week or two where there's just a lot of us questioning friendships, goals, and if our actions are reflecting our vibrations. I'm gonna say that again. Are our actions reflecting our vibrations? This is the interesting relationship that we're seeing between Aries and Pisces, right? Vibrations being Pisces. I guess you could say Uranus and Taurus. Now we're getting planets that are moving to the later degrees of the signs of Aquarius, Pisces, and now we're moving into Aries and Taurus zone pretty soon. Guys, we are only about 4 weeks out right now from having another set of eclipses, so we're coming into eclipse season. Usually anywhere from maybe 4 or 5 weeks prior to the eclipses, we start feeling them. We don't necessarily need the eclipse to show up to give us some definitive answers or events. Certainly, they're much more likely to happen at the end of April and going into mid-May, but you're going to start feeling this now, because we're getting a hard realignment from Saturn with the conjunctions to Saturn and squares to the nodes. So if you find yourself questioning your friendships, your goals, really looking at things and saying, hey, am I just talking the talk, or am I aligning my actions with my words and actually seeing things through? That's something you really want to be reflecting on. And like I said, a lot is still in the late degrees of Aquarius and Pisces. So for some of you, this new you may not feel like it's really arriving until closer to June. I feel like I've been like a broken record saying this. I've been saying this since December. I was like, we're not going to feel new energy until closer to about May, maybe June of 2022. So we're getting there, but April is more still that kind of rough and tumble month. It's not going to be your stereotypical Aries season. I think there's going to be lots of high highs and low lows because we're dealing with a lot of Mars-Saturn aspects, which is going to feel like we're hitting a wall or maybe a speed bump. And I'll talk about Mars-Saturn kind of archetypes in a second. But equally, we're going to be seeing that Mars and Jupiter aren't really ingressing into Aries until closer to June. So that's when we're going to have fresh new cycles. We're going to be able to feel like we have more freedom, expansion. And I think a lot of you guys are going to look at how your life was in December, January, versus how it's going to look closer to summer of 2022. And you're going to go, it's night and day, right? The energies are really going to start ramping up. So what is Aries? Aries is the very first sign of the zodiac. It's a cardinal fire sign, and this is very important because this is the very first new moon of the zodiac new year. So some people are like, ooh, New Year is when it's January 1st. Other people recognize that during the Lunar New Year, when we have that. I think it's in like February, March, depending on the timeline. But in my opinion, this is one that's really going to pack a punch. So if you feel like you've missed out on your opportunity to set intentions for the new year, if you've been feeling for the better part of the last week, like I've had enough, something's got to change, something's got to give, I got to shift something, this is the moon that you want to do it, okay? And you know what I love about Aries is that it's a self-starter. It's very efficient, fearless, courageous, bold. It's ruled by Mars, so it has this natural inclination to be first, to speed up, to move boldly into the future and be courageous. On the flip side, you really want to watch because we do have a stellium of planets that's going to be in Aries during this new moon. It involves Chiron as well as Mercury, so there can be like this tendency to sometimes be a little self-centered, sometimes be a little bit more self-focused. There can be a sense of me first, I'm going to do it first, I'm going to do it better, what works for me naturally, right? That's what Aries energy is about. So I want you guys to be mindful that this is a time where we want to be building off of what has been this collective pressure cooker energy that's been beating down on us. So when we come to the new moon, we can go, okay, I'm willing to do it. You know, I don't know about you guys, but like I'm one of those people, super Venusian. I don't like putting my laundry away. That's just like one of my dirty secrets. I don't mind doing laundry. I don't mind doing everything else. I'll organize, I'll pick things up, but I have the hardest time actually putting laundry away. So for me, this energy is just kind of like the, fine, I guess I'll take the several baskets and fold it up and put it away. And it's like finally getting that done. And those of you guys who have to-do lists or things that you really put off, whether it's like mowing the grass, cleaning out the fridge, like, you know, organizing the garage, whatever, that thing that's like, oh, I don't want to do it, but I have to do it. That's kind of what this energy is going to feel like from this new moon. But what I have to tell you is this, an insane amount of accomplishment, pride, and fulfillment will be coming through in June and July for those of you guys who get serious about putting some kind of personal goal in motion. Now, Aries can deal very specifically with the physical body, our self-awareness, our motivations, our action, our fitness. Think of like what comes to you first thing in the morning, right? And if you've been feeling sluggish with all these energies conjunct Saturn, or these conjunctions that have been happening in Pisces, this is going to be something that's going to give us a little bit more of like a fire under our butts, and a little bit more pep in our step, so we can get things going. I started feeling it when the sun went into Aries, and I'm not just saying that, like I really felt it. I actually felt that right when we went into the zodiac new year, when we had the sun ingress into Aries. I was fully anticipating to actually wait until this new moon around the 1st of April to start my new intentions. What was weird is it actually started the moment that the sun went into Aries, and I was like, okay, the energy's there, I'm just gonna roll with it. What it's made me realize is that this week that I've had with that transition has shown me what the future could be. And now I'm actually communicating and I'm moving differently. Thank God we've got Mercury now in Aries. So I think that there's a lot of momentum just building from that into the new moon, where we're already seeing like the things we have to get done. We're already kind of more conscious and aware of what we could change, what we should be saying, what we could be doing, how we could problem solve. Not really so much focus on other people. So it's going to keep turning the energy back on ourselves. So this Aries new moon is wonderful for fresh starts, healing work, especially for any Aries placements between 8 and 12 degrees, because it's going to involve a conjunction to Chiron. Chiron being a centaur associated with the wounded healer. Chiron in Aries is healing the self wounds. It could be literal wounds, cuts, burns, abrasions, migraines, headaches, sinus issues, bumping our head, you name it, but also how we think about ourselves, right? And being that it's now getting into, the second kind of real prominent energy of Aries, it's going to be more so about how we are putting that into action. Are we doing the work that we need to do? Are we watching what we're eating? Are we getting our exercise? Are we better transmuting and dealing with our negativity or our anger or our frustrations? And are we using that as fuel and motivation to get to where we want to go? So it's going to be really helpful also for us to use it to work through stress and issues relating to communication or self-expression, primarily because of the conjunction that it's making with the Mercury ingress into Aries. So we've got Sun, Moon, Mercury, Chiron, all in Aries. When we put that together, it's a fresh start. New moon, sun and moon conjunction, this awareness, this new seed that we're planting of how we speak about ourselves, how we talk to ourselves, how we beat ourselves up when we're looking in the mirror, when we're doing something wrong, when we make a mistake, when we forget something, where we have a tendency to kind of like pull like a Homer Simpson and just go, don't. That's very like Aries energy, right? So we're going to be able to better work through issues where we don't know how to communicate, where we're so frustrated in our inner world, our inner mind, that it actually hinders our ability to be able to connect with other people. Remember, when the sun is in Aries, the earth is in Libra. So as we're moving through and we're kind of doing all of our busy self-work, there is an interaction or reflection of how that physically manifests on the landscape of our relationships with people in the third dimension. So working through stress, self-expression, I would say, be mindful of where you're quick to, beat yourself up or get angry. And it's really awesome because it's going to be fiery, and I think it's going to give us enough momentum to go, you know what, that's it. I'm finally going to put the laundry away. I'm finally going to check off my to-do list. Nobody's stopping me but myself. Nobody's holding me back but myself from my goals. I want to talk to you guys a little bit about anger. And the difference between anger and aggression, because these two can get confused very easily. It's very simple, right? Anger and aggression. Either way, anger is a part of the situation, right? Anger is going to promote some kind of aggression. Aggression doesn't necessarily show up unless there's anger or frustration. The difference between anger and aggression is really all about how you act on it. Right? Anger is natural, it's something that comes up, but anger can be tied to fear. It can be tied to disappointment. It can be tied to loss of control, or feeling like you're not really in the driver's seat when it comes to your life in any capacity. So the difference between that and aggression is how you act on it. So aggression is going to be, okay, I'm acting on the anger. Anger is like, okay, well, I'm angry. I can be aware of it. And this is where you're going to have an opportunity this month to take a look at that and ask yourself, is this righteous anger, right? Or is this anxious anger? So righteous anger being something connected to like, you know, oh, I see that, I'm aware of that, I'm acknowledging that, I'm grounded, I'm calm. You can be super angry and be calm, especially if you have like any real prominent, you know, Scorpio, 8th house, Pluto placements. That's the difference between like the Pluto and the Mars. Mars is just gonna shoot from the hip. And guys, there's a lot of shooting from the hip this month, okay? And so when you start feeling that kind of coming up, you want to ask yourself, am I observing and taking the time to be more righteous about it and staying cool, calm, and collected? Literally count to 10. That can work wonders for a lot of people this month. Or is this anxious anger where I'm acting more fidgety, confused, impatient, and reactionary? Aries energy is very interesting. Like anybody who's got like a natal moon in Aries, Mars in Aries, Venus in Aries, Jupiter in Aries, there is this natural need for conflict. It's just how it works. It's initiatory. So it's almost like when you're dealing with a little kid and the little kid knows that whether it's good or bad attention, any attention is good. That's kind of like Aries placements. It's like, all right, well, I'm going to kind of rough things up and I'm going to see if I get a reaction. There are a lot of people who are used to living in the trauma drama of just stirring the pot, stirring the pot, stirring the pot because they're consciously looking for a reaction. I want you guys to start looking at things and learning to differentiate the difference between these two. When we break it down archetypally, I kind of feel like the righteous anger is more Saturnian. It's the I see it, I observe it, I don't like it, it's not okay, it's not going to work for me. Like a little bit more mature, right? Then we've got Mars, which is more the anxious anger. Of course, you could say maybe Mercury and Aries, but well, we've got that too. So it's really going to be interesting to watch because these transits this month are going to give us the opportunity to transmute anger, use it for fuel to get to where we're going, okay? Where we can transform our anger into compassion. And that's really also the Jupiter-Neptune aspects that we're going to be seeing throughout the month of April. I'm really looking forward to the end of the month. I know April hasn't even started yet, and I'm already saying that, but what I'm loving is like these conjunctions that we're seeing between Jupiter and Neptune and also Venus that's going to be taking place. That's almost going to feel like there's so much room for peace, compassion, practicing more sympathy, being aware and emotional and connected, the willingness to be more self-sacrificial, jump in and give to those in need. So we're going to see people waving the white flag. There is going to be a lot of smoothing things over, but it's not going to come until closer to the end of the month. A couple other things that I was just reflecting on is just, you know, just some quotes on anger, some things that I have actually had saved for a long time that I pulled up. If anger is not restrained, it is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it. Very Mercury, Sun, Moon, Chiron, Aries. Once again, if anger is not restrained, it's frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it. I think a lot about talking to clients, especially clients who are going through Chiron returns, Chiron on their sun, their ascendant, things like that. And the reoccurring theme that I keep seeing is that where blisters, burns, cuts, actual eruptions, boils, you know, sometimes it's skin issues, sometimes it's head-on car accidents, sometimes it's concussions, come after a series of events where they have been compounding their anger and not communicating and not expressing how they've been feeling. I'm not a doctor, gotta give that kind of little bubble down here, but I have noticed a trend where it's like actual healing crises have a tendency to manifest as a result of misplaced emotions and emotions in the body that we have not dealt with, right? So when we're dealing with Aries and what immediately comes to our mind, or in this month actually, what comes from our mind and out of our mouth and how we emotionally react to things that may be conscious or unconscious can manifest as us healing or hurting ourselves, healing or hurting, depending on how you look at it, but also gives us the ability to go, I'm going to fix that. Nobody can fix this but me. I can't heal other people. I need to bring that energy back towards myself. Also, anger doesn't solve anything. It builds nothing, but it can destroy everything, right? So getting angry doesn't necessarily fix anything. It can have some positive benefits, and we'll talk about that as well, but it doesn't build anything. Nobody gets angry and goes, I'm going to build this house. I mean, unless you're like The Notebook, but in that case, I mean, okay, that's a bad example. Sorry. But when you think about it, it really does put you in a situation where getting so angry that it can actually knock everything down like a Lego tower, right? And like if you've done that or walked all over them, certainly that can make you angry as well. But what does anger have the capability of showing us? Well, I've got a whole fun list for you guys. You might want to jot this down, just some things that I was reflecting on. It gives us the ability to reflect on repressed emotions. Because obviously if it's bubbling up out of somewhere, it's like, whoa, I wasn't aware that that was kind of renting space somewhere in my heart or my mind or my body. And it can come up. So like some kind of volcanic eruption, it needs to be acknowledged. 2, it can show us where we're ready to heal. And I think that's really going to be the bigger thing that's going to come up this month with the conjunction between the sun and the moon and Chiron, especially patterns. Pallas Athena is there, so I guess we could throw that into the mix as well. But it's just kind of showing us where we're having this kind of repetitive pattern of I'm getting angry, I'm getting angry, I'm getting angry. But it's almost like, you know, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So if you're finding that you're repeating these patterns where you're getting hurt because of, you know, an interaction you're having with a person or falling back into a bad habit or whatever, really ultimately it's going to fall back on you, Aries. So it's giving you the opportunity to look at where you are ready to heal. Number 3, it gives you the ability to claim your true desires. I don't know about you, but me personally, it's like I have felt that some of the best things have actually come up from getting pissed off and just like blowing my top, because you just kind of get out with it and you say everything that you're feeling. Not that that's the best way to handle it. Certainly some people are going to react that way this month, but it does make you aware of your desires, because desire and passion are still very much tied to the archetype of Mars. So you guys may find that through getting really angry and talking it out, it's almost like sitting in a therapy session and somebody goes, but how does it make you feel? Okay, but how does it really make you feel? Until you have the meltdown and then the tears and the angry crying and all that stuff. And then you're like, this is what I really want. That's the gold. Number 4, it's going to allow us to better direct our energy. So I think getting angry is going to show us where it's like, probably not the best idea to be, you know, like flipping people off on our way home. Why don't you put that energy into getting on the treadmill? Why don't you put that energy into reorganizing your closet? Why don't you put that energy into doing something else that could be better used, I guess, when you think about it energetically? Number 5, it's going to give you the ability to identify where you have misaligned beliefs. This is a big one for me. I have found that me getting angry and reflecting on getting angry about stuff just in recent years has made me realize that it's me getting angry because there's a lot of me believing something should be a certain way, right? Should be meaning it's, you know, an opinion, and everybody has opinions. But that's where we start to kind of get even more frustrated and go, oh my gosh, you know, I just thought it was supposed to be this way. It should be this way. Obviously, there's something that's misaligned in regards to my beliefs and my actions. So it gives you the ability to reflect and have clarity and create change. Number 6, it creates a safe space to grow. So getting angry can be really great because it can help us establish boundaries. It can help us be aware of what's not healthy, what we have to cut off, where we need to be better, grow up, mature. Aries energy has a tendency to react, right? And not just violently or angrily, but it can be tantrums. It can be immature. It can be I think not fully developed. When we look at how the fire signs evolve from Aries to Leo to Sag, it's a nice graduation. You know, Aries is like the little toddler that's running around lighting everything on fire, and then Leo is kind of like the look what I created, and then Sag is like, okay, now I've learned. So you have to understand we're working with very, not only primal, but very immature energy whenever we're dealing with Aries. So we have to cut ourselves a little bit of slack too and realize that we're still learning how to do these things. We're still learning how to focus on ourselves and not necessarily focus on our job, focus on our relationship, focus on what society tells us to do. It's about bringing the energy back to us. Number 7, it allows us to cultivate respect. I like that. It allows us to cultivate respect, and I think the space to be able to better respect ourselves and other people, and through issues that we have with anger and confrontation, we can readdress issues revolving around respect. And number 8, it allows us to come into and own our own power. Sometimes you need to use a little anger as motivation, right? Sometimes it's the fuel that we put in the car, like I said, to get to where we want to go. Hopefully this is some stuff that's helpful for you guys, just food for thought, right? If you've been frustrated, if you feel like you've been spinning your wheels and you're finally at your wit's end, use this new moon to sit down, take time by yourself, do it first thing in the morning, create a to-do list. Create a to-do list of things that you want to do for yourself. And if it's things that you need to do around the house, awesome. If it's things that you need to do for your health, great. If it's things that you need to do to better define who you are outside of other people, relationships with other people, or other responsibilities, do that too. And know that you have an amazing period over the next 2 weeks where the cosmos really support you sticking to your guns. And even those of you guys who aren't doing it, you're going to feel the pushback. That's going to start pushing you in that direction of standing up and focusing more on how you can change. So there in turn, we can see lots of global change around the world and we can have a better place. Work with the element of fire. It's one of the best things I can tell you guys. If you want to take a candle, whether it's a white candle, a red candle, you can use a gold candle, a bronze candle. That's something that you can do. Warm spices. So I think of like chamomile, cinnamon, even working with, gosh, what else? Dragon's blood. These are just things that I like to use when I'm working with Aries energy. I have a whole mix. If you follow my Instagram, usually I post all of my kind of zodiac blends and things, so I'll probably be doing that. But you want to think of the element of fire. So writing your intentions, sitting down, burning them, great way to do it. Obviously, if you have a fire-safe pot or something to do it in. Also, just like I said, coming up with a list, sitting down and being like, these are the lists of things that I'm going to do, and holding yourself to it. See how much you can get done before we get to what will be the full moon in Libra. That'll be a wonderful time to see, okay, I've done all this work on myself for 2 weeks. Now how am I better relating to other people? So let's get into the actual aspects of this new moon. Like I said, it's going to be March 31st, 2022, 11:24 p.m. Pacific, 2:24 a.m. on April 1st. April Fools. This is not a joke. Check your time zones. It's going to be at 11 degrees of Aries. Some of the most prominent aspects are Mars conjunct Saturn. And so just wrapping on that a little bit, Mars is putting your foot on the gas pedal. It's going somewhere and going somewhere fast. When it's in Aquarius, it's rebellious. It's a little airy. Doesn't like being told what to do. It doesn't want to be restrained. It's a lot of verbal conflict sometimes, communication, pushback. It's also using our words and our intelligence as, I guess, the gas, right? It's like that's how we're able to kind of move forward. When I think of Mars and Saturn, I think of running into a wall, like a car driving into a wall. I think of coming up to a stop sign. I'm from California. Coming up to a stop sign where you're supposed to stop and you don't stop and a cop pulls you over, right? It's like a California roll. Saturn is that restrictive, karmic, limiting energy. It's the strict parent, the boss that's like, hey, are you here on time? You need to be checking in on time or you know, whatever, clocking in on time. It can be the teacher that's just repetitively saying, do it again, do it better, do it right. And Mars is getting frustrated because Mars just wants to move forward. So if we put these two together, it can be rather frustrating. As I'm filming this, you know, yesterday, today, we see Venus coming into conjunction with Saturn. So we're already kind of noticing where things aren't feeling good. Relationships can feel kind of cold. They can feel kind of stagnant. There can be a sense of not feeling like we're receiving the love, especially when this is all in air signs. And on top of all of that, it's squaring the nodes. So there's something going on right now where we're kind of looking around going like, this doesn't really feel right. This doesn't feel good. This doesn't taste good. I'm not feeling the affection. I'm not really feeling the unity. I'm not feeling the connectedness. I'm noticing that I'm kind of closing off, or I'm coming to this situation where I'm realizing I'm hit my breaking point. I don't really know if this is what I value any longer, both because of Venus conjunct Saturn, but because of the squares to the nodes. So right now, guys, you're in heavy karmic time. Pretty much right now, all the way through mid-April, whatever happens, happens. And this isn't even because of the eclipses. It's more because of the squares to the nodes. So everybody is being asked right now to kind of level up when it comes to, well, what is love? What is friendship? Is it purely romantic? Can it be platonic? Are we showing love only to certain people? Are we not showing love and appreciation in other ways for collective energies? What are we doing for others? Then here comes Mars joining in the mix, and Mars is kind of crashing through things, reacting to whatever disturbances have been going on in relationships or values or finances recently. And I kind of see Saturn as stopping Mars, being like, no, you're not going to react, right? So I'm not one of those archetypal astrologers who's going to talk to you about twin flames and be like divine masculine and feminine, but in this situation I will. A lot of feminine energies, not women, but feminine energies right now are not feeling it. They're not feeling the love. They're not feeling appreciated. They're not feeling attractive. They're not feeling the unity. It can feel very detached and kind of cold. or women are just noticing that they're not feeling like they're having as much freedom. But it's not limited to women. It could be artists, creatives, writers, musicians, other kind of Venusian energies, and it's feeling stuck. Now we've got Mars, which is naturally more masculine energy, coming into a conjunction with Saturn. As this conjunction is happening, Juno's in the mix. So a lot of people are actually starting to look at relationships and marriages very differently and seeing it more in a sense of, well, how can we be a team? How can we work together? How can we have more fun? How can we update and really allow ourselves to reflect on what partnership really is? So in that aspect, those who are coupled are going through lots of karmic situations, upgrades or disappointments, realizing that there's frustrations, limitations, and possibly looking at separations or tearing apart because Mars does sever. But people who are single are also going to start connecting and meeting people as well. So through this global limitation, this frustration, this separation, it's pushing people to do what? Aquarius, to come together, get online, join new groups, new associations, networks, their goals are changing. Guys, the North Node's in Taurus. It wants us to have good food, it wants us to have healthy bodies, it wants us to populate, it wants us to have sex, pleasure, make art, make love. So as a result of some of these conjunctions, many people are gonna go, that's it, I'm leaving my husband. That's it, I'm relocating, I am quitting my job, I am starting this new business, I'm starting a network, and it's this really cool energy that is gonna bring people together, not just romantically, it will, frustration will bring about people who are on the same soul path, but it's gonna bring together friendships. It's probably going to be a major turning point where people who may be in bigger businesses or maybe they've been working for major corporate companies may leave, they may walk out to go and start their own networks. So as a result of collective frustration, we're gonna see people all start raising their vibration, Aquarius, realizing their holes, their hopes, their goals, and focusing on not settling, right? Something that's like gotten me a long way the last couple of years is very high standards, very low expectations. High standards meaning I'm not gonna accept anything less than, and this is more so in terms of my interaction with people, life, relationships, my goals. Low expectations, so that way if somebody doesn't meet my expectation, I'm not gonna bug out about it. I'm not gonna let it get to me. If it's not something that's going to affect you in about 3 years, it's probably not worth getting too upset over. And so I think a lot of people are also learning with this Mars energy conjunct Saturn to hone it in a little bit, bring it in, make it tighter, make it stronger, make it more reformed, learn to look at things and go, we don't agree, but that's okay. This isn't working for me, but you know, good luck to you. What is it what they say in the South? Like, oh, bless your heart. It's like very Mars Saturn, you know, especially with Venus, a little bit of sweetness in there. So look for those cosmic speed bumps that may be frustrating. It may be the denial of the loan. It may be the no, not yet, or I'm not ready, don't call me for a month type of thing. And really realize that some of your actions with Mars conjunct Saturn will have major karmic repercussions down the road, especially in May, June, especially in August, especially in November. You reacting or acting out or rushing to get something done can have major karmic repercussions. And I don't mean just in terms of friendships, because it could piss a friend off, delete somebody on Facebook, find out down the road that, oh, I really wish I had them and now we're no longer friends because of something petty. But financial implications, vibrational implications. Understand that a lot of people are going to be very angry and very reactionary because of this energy. And as a result of that, if you're joining in on that, you're perpetuating that vibration. You want to be Mr. Miyagi. When we're going to be in a state of like angry herd mentality, you want to stand back, observe, and know which battles you want to fight, right? Definitely pick your battles this month. Mars, Saturn, Venus conjunct in Aquarius, rising vibrations and openness, but asserting boundaries. Remember, high standards. Mars and Saturn will square the nodes, creating collective frustration and anger. Speed bumps, limitations, roadblocks, barriers, things that are going to be setbacks, but for good reason. Saturn would not slow Mars down unless he was saying, hey, hold up, wait. Be mindful, after Saturn allows Mars to pass, Mars is then going to go into Pisces. And when Mars goes into Pisces in the next month or two, it will conjunct Jupiter and Neptune. We're going to get the opportunity to reflect on our goals, ask ourselves, are we really going in the direction that we really want to with our life? You know, are our manifestations, our intentions, our energies matching up with our behavior and the way that we're moving through the world? If not, when Mars and Neptune comes into a conjunction, we can dissolve it, right? We can definitely dissolve it. And those of you guys who have been leading lives that are not authentic, those of you guys who have rushed through things, those of you guys who were not really fully prepared, you may find that there is a time that's coming where you're going to have to relaunch, restart. I'm getting you guys that time period right now. It's going to be closer to the end of May of 2022. So some of you guys are on the brink of wanting to launch something new, but you're like, okay, the website's going out, we're doing this, we're doing that, and then the server goes down. It's kind of the energy that it is. So if you're feeling like you have to force something, if something's not ready, if it's not authentic, if you're needing to sit with it longer, you can sit with it a little bit longer and know that a launch point is going to be, I think, a little bit better at the end of May, right? We're going to also have a Mercury retrograde, so we'll be able to rethink things then as well. We've also got Jupiter coming into conjunction with Neptune and Pisces. Very spiritual, renewing. It's visual. It's like being baptized, like you're born again. Oh, it's a brand new me. It's funny because Aries rules the head, and then you've got Jupiter and Neptune. That's like, I literally need to kind of like clear my mind, you know? I need to focus on me. And when I focus on me and get organized and put on those blinders, then I can become very aware of, oh, what are my goals? Where am I going? The fact that Jupiter and Neptune are behind the sun and all these planets right now is telling me that we have to maintain the faith, right? We have to have a regular practice of faith. And it doesn't mean that you have to go to church or you have to go to temple. You can if that's what you want to do. But Jupiter's more the sage. It's more like, well, I could do yoga. I could, you know, listen to some meditation. I can reflect on it. I can manifest. I can visualize where I'm going and what I'm doing. And I know that as long as I'm keeping that in alignment, as long as the vision is there and the belief is there, Jupiter, I know exactly where I'm going. I'm guided. It's going to be interesting to see where things fall, basically, at the end of May. Because, like I said, some of you guys are going to release some stuff. You're going to let some stuff go at the end of April. You're going to realize that you have been envisioning a life that's not in alignment, or it's not authentic, or it's not you. That's one thing that's really kind of grinded my gears recently. You know, I'm not going to name any names. I'm not calling anybody out specifically, but it's so strange to me to be in this type of environment, just in terms of my work and what I do. I meet a lot of people. I know a lot of other people who practice, who are different forms of readers and teachers and healers and all of these things. And it always is mind-boggling to me to see people who want to talk about this stuff, and they'll put it out there and they'll put it on the platform and they'll do it. But in their life, they're not practicing it, right? They're not practicing it. So it's kind of like, to be a teacher, to be somebody who's going to do this work, you have to be super humble, and you also have to be willing to kind of sit down and go, hey, this is hard. It's not easy. This is what I've learned. This is where I've made mistakes. This is where I've kind of screwed up. And this is what I learned from it. Rather than creating a platform where it's like, look what I'm doing. Everything's great. Just manifest. This is what you do. This is what you do. Everything's easy. We're not going to spiritually bypass on this channel. It's not something I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you guys how things are really kind of playing out. And I think a lot of this is about being able to be vulnerable and sharing where we've made mistakes, where we've been hurt, where things haven't been easy, and we felt kind of like lost on our own. And I think that we have to go through some of those transitions and some of those trying times because they give us the opportunity to learn, right? So the Jupiter-Neptune can also be that. It can be this is really hard. I'm walking this path by myself. It's difficult. I'm kind of spinning out. I have some days that are difficult, you know? With this Jupiter-Neptune conjunction, you're going to see people who are going to get really, really, really religious or really spiritual, or they're going to go down the rabbit hole of the fear, the anxiety, the spiraling out. A lot of people are having issues with depression, also with addiction, whether it's liquids, drugs, what have you. That energy rises as well, because when Jupiter and Neptune come together in a water sign, especially Pisces, they lose the boundaries. Right? We start to lose the boundaries. We start to have holes in our auric field. We absorb other people's pain, their addictions, their emotions, and all of those things. And so this is why Aries season is so important, is that we need to be aware of not everybody's wounds is our wound, right? Sometimes trauma healing and bonding isn't actually really great. Sometimes it makes more sense to focus more on the self, bring the energy in, focus on what we can create, and hold ourselves accountable for that. We've also got Jupiter and Neptune in a sextile with the North Node in Taurus. So our dreams, our visions, our manifestations, our prayers, we are shifting that quantumly into what is going to physically start to manifest very quickly. We're in high manifestational energy. It can go either way. So you want to be mindful of what you're thinking about, what you're saying, and what you're praying and asking for. Miracles happen with this conjunction, both the Jupiter, Neptune, but also the sextile that we start to see to Uranus, where things just magically appear. And with the trine from Jupiter, Neptune to the South Node, we are karmically clearing, we are emotionally clearing, we are detoxifying, we are emotional, we're in our feels and our fears very often. And it's important to, I think, ask for assistance and grace. And that's where also a lot of just being patient with yourself comes in. Okay, thank you. Let's talk April monthly. Let's get into what's going on for the month ahead, and then I will be talking about what's going to be happening for each and every one of the 12 signs. So let's segue now into April of 2022. So the month is going to kick off on the 1st, have that new moon in Aries. So hopefully you guys are setting those intentions and you're making magic happen. On the 2nd, the sun comes into conjunction with Mercury in Aries. This is possibly putting our foot in our mouth kind of day. Watch what you say, watch how you move around in the world. It's at a 13, so it's extra fiery, extra spicy. We might be feeling a little bit more sensitive, a little bit more aware of our flaws, things that hurt, or where we have to go our own way. When the sun and Mercury is conjunct, it's combust, right? As long as it's within 10 degrees, you're really gonna feel it when it's exact. But being that it's so close to Chiron, it's a lot of, I hurt, I feel, I don't like, I'm not able to, or get out of my way type energy. So watch for that, because it can be a little abrasive, especially in terms of communication. And it's a good day to just be more focused on what you can control, not controlling other people. Then on the 4th of the month, Mars in Aquarius comes into conjunction with Saturn in Aquarius. Stop at all the stop signs. Try the best that you can to take the constructive criticism. Try not to react or over blow things out of proportion or erupt. This is the Mr. Miyagi energy where you want to pull it in. You want to get super tight and focused and reformed. It almost reminds me of like holding a pose or posture in yoga. It's like hold, and it burns and it hurts and you want to react and want to fall, but you have to hold it. You're being asked to hold and think something over before you react or before you respond. Those of you guys who have planets anywhere from, I would say 20 to 25 degrees of the fixed signs, you're going to feel this the most. If you are a Saturn or a Mars-based chart, so if you're a Cap or an Aquarius rising or a Scorpio or an Aries rising, pay attention, you're going to feel this. Thank God on the 5th of April, Venus goes into Pisces. Oh my gosh, Venus has been in a Saturn-based sign since November of 2021. That's a whole lot of time of Venus being in more kind of serious, somber, restricted type energies. Now Venus moves out of her conjunction with Saturn and Mars. She goes into the mutable water sign of Pisces. It's like Venus being born in the ocean with all the sea foam and the pearls and all the topless pretty ladies with all the long hair. I feel like the closer that we get to mid-month, the easier things are going to get. Granted, I know we have eclipses, but still. If you are a Venus-based chart, if you are a Taurus or a Libra rising, sun or moon, you're going to be like, oh, things are getting a little bit more peaceful. I'm not having so much issues in terms of my relations with other people. If you are a Pisces or a Pisces rising, get ready. This is awesome because you're going to see Venus come into your sign, and later in the month when there's some conjunctions, probably one of the most amazing, magical Disney romance kind of situations ever. Especially because that plays into the eclipse. Listen to my horoscopes because I talk about that for you guys and how it plays out. But Venus going into this sign, just say that it's more relaxed, it's more emotional, it's more empathic, it's more self-sacrificial. And I do think it's leading the way to seeing a lot more peace and kind of resolution the second part of April. Then on the 7th of the month, we are going to see Mercury and Aries come into a sextile with Saturn in Aquarius. So Mercury and Saturn, they're seeing each other. They're like, I don't like this. Yeah, I don't like this either. Okay, cool. Let's band together. A sextile is when you have two planets that are forming a positive aspect to each other. It skips a sign. So as Mercury sextiles Mars and Saturn, the sun is very close by as well. And it's saying like, okay, here's how we're going to get moving. This is what we're going to change. Then on the 8th of the month, Mercury in Aries comes into a sextile with Mars. So interesting. First it's sextiling Saturn, then it's sextiling Mars. So it's like, okay, that was the plan. Now we're actually going to put it into action. I like when Mercury and Mars are talking to each other like this because I feel like they're not shouting at each other. They're both equally frustrated. They're both equally motivated. So we're going to see lots of motivation and action between individuals and teams. Guys, great team building opportunities. If you're somebody who owns a business, if you want to sit down with a group of people, if you want to find a way to better keep the peace, I'm loving the 7th and the 8th of April. I think it's a great time to sit down, reevaluate, delegate tasks to people, and help everybody feel like they're responsible for actually carrying a group project forward. Then on the 10th of the month, we are going to see Mercury in Aries square Pluto in Capricorn. Wah, wah. Well, what can I say about, you know, the square? Actually, it's happening closer to here. So it's the 9th going into the 10th. Mercury square Pluto, not so friendly. It's kind of like obsessive, fixated, heavy-handed, you know, communication. It can also be a little more invasive, where it's like, I'm wondering if this is going to materialize as certain people feeling like there's a security breach or there's an information breach, or that there's too much of their thoughts that are out in the open, and that they're scared perhaps because of the square to Pluto to speak their mind. On the 11th, Jupiter in Pisces comes into a conjunction with Neptune in Pisces. I'm going to talk about this. It's happening more on the 10th, but you know, the 10th going into the 11th. I'm going to talk more about this in a video. I'm going to be doing a video about that this week, but we've got Jupiter, which is about spiritual evolution, awareness, travel. I think this is going to be, we're going to see a lot of people, unfortunately, being rehomed, right? Jupiter, Neptune can be like people who are crossing borders and expanding and like, you know, trying to find somewhere to live, trying to find somewhere to be. So watching kind of what's going on in parts of the world, whether it's because they're misplaced because of war or they're misplaced because of weather, this is definitely something that we want to watch for. This is a rare conjunction, okay? It only happens once every 180 years in the sign of Pisces. Both Jupiter and Neptune rule Pisces. If you're looking at the traditional and the modern rulers, it's at a 23. So there's going to be some things that happen 9th, 10th, 11th of April that people are going to go, how is this possible? I never thought that this is possible, because 23 relates to Uranus. It's something that's shocking, sudden, things that we never thought could actually come about, coming off the heels of some of these Mars-Saturn conjunctions as well. More on that. Also, if you guys watch my podcast, check out the Midheaven podcast. I believe we did a whole 1-hour special talking about this conjunction. So if you can't wait until my more philosophical views on that, and I do that video later, go and check that out. It's funny. I'm convinced that we are going to find Atlantis, or like a very rare, you know, treasure chest in a sunken ship, or, you know, I don't know, if we find out mermaids are real. I mean, that's just me. I'm very Neptunian. Then on the 12th, the Sun in Aries sextiles Saturn in Aquarius. So we're seeing change coming as a result of our own action. So that's why I keep telling you guys, if you set intentions on that new moon in Aries around the 1st or the 31st or the 1st, this is when you start kind of going like, okay, I think this is going to work. I think we're going to see this through. I've got support. We're going to see this come together. It's all kind of shaping up. Wow, this is really kind of starting to stick. Sun is about action. It's also going to be about our confidence, our ego. It's our awareness. So we're aware that it takes one person to create change that sets off like a ripple or a domino effect to where everybody starts working together more efficiently. On the 14th of the month, actually, did I skip something? 12th, Sun in Aries, yeah. On the 14th of the month, then we're going to see Mars enter into the sign of Pisces. Well, we got a Pisces party now. It wasn't just an Aries party. Now it's back to Pisces. So that's why I say this month is kind of back and forth. Mars in Pisces, Venus in Pisces, Neptune in Pisces, Jupiter in Pisces. What? It's like, what's going on here? I like the Mars and Venus and Pisces aspect. I think it's very creative, very dreamy. It's very great for anybody who is in design, film, photography, music, anything that's going to be more Neptunian or Piscean. But Mars does not do so well in the sign of Pisces. Obviously, we like to see Mars like in Aries or in a fire sign or in Capricorn. So when you're looking at Mars in Aries, it's kind of like driving with the brakes on. It's mutable, it's changeable. Our energy levels, they come and go. We might be more self-sacrificial. We might see that our drive drops a little bit. We want to relax a little bit more, especially being that it's coming into a Neptunian sign. So we want to get as much done as we can just in terms of forward motion prior to the 14th. I almost see it as we're building to the 14th. We're going to scale back. We're going to see how we're feeling with the changes that we've made, and we're going to hit it hard, making some more changes closer to the end of May. So you're going to get a little bit of a break point, or maybe you're organizing things and getting everything ready. So that way you can kind of see how it's working, see how you're feeling. On the 17th, this is a bit of a busy day. We have got Mercury in Taurus coming into a sextile with Venus in Pisces. So, you know, the sextile between Mercury and Venus makes me feel like there's a lot of talking about what feels good, what doesn't feel good, what looks good, what doesn't look good, aesthetically or verbally. Can be a time where we're trying to work better with other people, or we're trying to work out relational issues, financial issues. That same day, Mercury comes into conjunction with Uranus. Wow, wow, wow. That is a problem-solving day. That is going to be an insightful day. You can have an epiphany, an aha moment. Somebody switches a light on and it's just like, bing, okay, I've got it. This looks better. Use this as a day to go in and kind of tweak things, perfect things, make things better. Be open also to anything relating to constructive criticism. Once again, guys, because I do see the moon in Scorpio. So the moon's going to oppose Mercury Uranus. So it's going to be like, well, we really need to talk about this because we could be doing this better this way. As the moon crosses the south node, we have the opportunity to let go of our need to control things or react or be a little too touchy. This same day, we also are going to see that Venus is in a sextile to Uranus too. So we're changing the way that we value things. We're changing how we are in relationships. There seems to be like a lot of talking to other people about what we envision that things could be. So once again, if you're not liking things, you want to go the path of least resistance. You're going to catch more flies with honey than you are with vinegar. Speak sweetly. It might get you a little bit further. You might find that by slowing down and really talking about what feels good or what you value, you can create change without like the startling kind of friction that can come with the Mercury Uranus conjunction. High nerves, kind of stressful day for some people, especially if you've got any planets around, I would say 12 to 15 degrees of the fixed sign. If you are a Taurus, sun, moon, or rising, it might be a startling day revolving around resources and money. You might feel a little shaken up. That is possible. On the 18th of the month, we're going to see the sun in Aries come into a square with Pluto and Capricorn. It's a Scooby-Doo day. It's actually really starting, you know, the late hours of the 17th going into the 18th. I say it's a Scooby-Doo day because when the sun squares Pluto, we become aware of the monster in our closet. We have to unmask something and we go like, you're not going to scare me anymore. You know, you're not going to, this isn't going to freak me out anymore. So you want to look at where Aries is in your chart. It is taking initiative to push back and kind of go, no, I'm not reacting to this fear the way that I used to wherever Pluto is in Capricorn. Interesting that that's the opening square. I think back to like January of 2022, when we had all these conjunctions with Pluto, the sun was there, we had Venus and Mercury all conjunct and do their retrogrades, conjunct Pluto. So we've been working through our fears for some time. So if you go back to my other videos in the past and you listen to me talk about where these fears were coming up, what needed to change, what needed to die and be buried, or what was resurrecting that you thought was dead and buried, now this is the first opportunity we get to kind of rise to the occasion and go, nope, that's not going to be something that's going to spook me out anymore. I'm not giving power to that. On the 19th, then we are going to see the sun enters Taurus. Happy birthday to all of my April Tauruses and also my April Aries. I didn't forget you guys. But, you know, we're really starting to get into now from this moment forward, preparing for the eclipses, because we are seeing that planets are already have been crossing the same degree as the eclipse that will be coming at the end of the month. So when the sun goes into Taurus, we start fixating and looking at the physical body. We start looking at the earth. We start looking at our resources, our values, right? It's like the aftermath of like tax season, you know, looking at how much you spent versus how much you owe. But also it's a really nice time to kind of look around. It's springtime and we're starting to kind of really see like, oh, there's new life coming, right? All the work we were doing in Aries season, it initiated something. So we feel better in our bodies. We feel more secure. On the 24th, this is another very busy day. We have got Mercury in Taurus, sextile Jupiter in Pisces. Excuse me, I take that back. Mercury in Taurus square Saturn in Aquarius. That was the 27th. So on the 24th, Mercury in Taurus square Saturn in Aquarius. When Mercury squares with Saturn, especially because the moon is there, it's going to be hard times relating, right? Emotionally and communicating. This is where we really start to kind of do the work revolving around making shifts that feel uncomfortable, aligning more with what feels good, more of what actually it means to be in our body and feel wealthy. Dare I say wealthy? You know, I keep thinking about the square between all these planets squaring from Aquarius to Taurus. And I guess the conclusion that I've kind of come to is when we collectively get to our breaking point, where we realize that we have kind of bought into an idea that more is more, that to be healthy or wealthy means to have a lot or excess or tons of food, tons of clothes, tons of this, tons of that. When we finally get fed up and go, wow, that's not actually giving us freedom. We're actually stuck in a system where we're working just to survive. We're not thriving. We're not getting to actually be in our bodies. We're not getting to stop and smell the roses, really enjoy our food. When we all get to that point where we realize that we are shackling ourselves to a system, that's when change happens. So I foresee a lot of people right around the end of April, specifically with this square, going, okay, we have to make the change. No, we're not going to be buying from Amazon all the time. No, we're not going to be going out there and buying the newest, you know, Range Rover because your friend has one and they posted it on Instagram. I'm dead serious. This is what's going to start happening. People are going to start looking at things going like, that's not really trendy anymore, right? It's not in to have excess of things. So we're having to tweak and change the way that we look at what we value, what we need, what actually brings us security. Because you can have security going and buying all of your groceries from a high-end store, but who knows if you're actually going to have those goods for long? Who knows if the prices are going to rise or what they're going to do? Who knows if it's going to be available? Who knows if there's going to be people who are going to share with you? But if you go more into the Taurus kingdom and you go, I can grow my own food. You know I'm fine without the material brands. You know, I don't have to have name brand anything. I don't have to wear makeup. I mean, lots of people are going to start shifting. We're going to start seeing as a society, we're getting back down to basics. And whether that's because it's choice and we start identifying what it means to actually be beautiful or be abundant, which is natural, things in their natural state, or going more in the direction of, okay, well, in order to keep up with the Joneses, you have to do X, Y, Z. So society is splitting. Watch for this day to be a day where you're going to realize that there are some uncomfortable changes that you have to make with your values, your resources, things like that. Also, Mercury in Taurus will sextile Neptune in Pisces. So it's going to be kind of like, this is weird. I kind of feel like this is going to happen. Or through being more conscious and aware of our emotions, we're able to actually have serious conversations about changing our values. P.S. Mercury is coming into shadow. Okay, Mercury will retrograde back to the late degrees of Taurus. So a lot of what's going on right now, it'll come back up in about a month's time. So just be aware of that. Also on this day, we are going to see that, let's see, do I have everything? Yeah, that's it. So the sextile to Neptune in Pisces. On the 27th, here we go, Mercury in Taurus sextiles Jupiter in Pisces. So then it's like wow, I'm really glad that I made that decision. I'm really glad we talked about that. I feel better now. I feel more solid now. Thank God we made that shift. Thank God we made that change. I'm also loving the fact that Venus is conjunct Neptune and Jupiter. The Neptune-Jupiter conjunction, like I said, every 180 years. But now we've got Venus there, which is exalted, with the two other rulers of Pisces. It's a good omen, guys. It's a good omen going into the eclipse, even though the eclipse is going to be a little rattling, that whatever is happening for our higher spiritual good. So you might lose money in the stock market. Might happen. So you might lose your job. Could also happen. You might realize that the security you thought you had isn't secure, but whatever's being removed, it's because something else is trying to come in. It's setting the stage for what will be 6 months of reorganizing and defining our values. And the less that we're focused on materialism, the more that we're focused on, oh, well, let's change the way that we look at things vibrationally. You know, you can feed yourself and be wealthy. You could feed other people and have that sense of spiritual wealth. And I think that you're going to see a lot of people shifting the way that they look at what they have versus what they're willing to give. And that those who do have excess are willing to give. And even those who don't are still going to give, right? It's about being more compassionate, I think, to other people. Then on the 28th, Mercury enters Gemini. It gets chatty. I guess technically that's going into the 29th. Yeah. Gets chatty when it's in Gemini. There we go. Mercury loves being there. It's the ruler of Gemini. It's the messenger. So we're going to see stuff kind of flying around a little bit. As it's going in between the late degrees of Taurus into Gemini, the 27th, 20th, 29th, it's still trining Pluto. So very important conversations. I think I've said in previous videos, all the retrogrades this year start in air signs. They retrograde back to earth signs. So what's going on at the end of April is like a lot of talking. Well, what are we doing? What are we changing? What options do we have? And then when it retrogrades in May, it'll trine Pluto. So we have the ability to go back, use our power to change and transform the way that we think about things, the way that we think about power, the way that we think about death, endings, change, transformation. Then on the 29th, also, Pluto is retrograding. So it's going to be several months of seeing Pluto retrograde. We're going to get to review, revisit, rework, reimagine what power structures are changing in our life. We've got Pluto in the late degrees, guys. So it's like there are some things that still feel like they have a chokehold on us. We'll talk about that more as the month unfolds. I'll probably do a video on that, but you're not going to feel it as much, at least in my opinion. I think we're going to feel it a little bit more when it goes direct. But when a malefic planet goes retrograde, we get a bit of a break. And last but not least, it will be the 30th of April. We're going to have a new moon solar eclipse in Taurus. So it's a new moon. It's conjunct Uranus. It's super active. It's shocking. Changes revolving around our values, materialism, money, the markets. Lots going to change. One thing I will tell you is this. Listen, because if you go to my horoscopes, I talk about where it's going to happen in your chart. So you have an idea of where it's going. This month, this week, actually, I'm going to do the Jupiter, Neptune, and I'm going to do the eclipse video. So that way you guys have it a month in advance so you're ready. But this is what you need to know. This will be an eclipse because it is going to be conjunct Uranus that's going to flip things. We're going to see that things are going to kind of turn on their side a little bit. Shocks and changes, especially for the fixed signs. If you are a Taurus, Sun, Moon, or Rising, or a Scorpio, Sun, Moon, or Rising, pay attention. The end of the month, sudden turns of fate, okay? It's a positive moon because the ruler of Taurus, which is Venus, is still in conjunction to Neptune and Jupiter. So in spite of whatever goes wonky, I will tell you this eclipse is a lot easier than the full moon and Scorpio eclipse. It's much easier. So I'll get into it in my video. Stay tuned. If you want to know more about where it's happening for you, watch my horoscopes. And eclipse videos for both the new moon solar eclipse in Taurus and the full moon lunar eclipse in Scorpio are coming soon. I'll have all kinds of information on the eclipse, ritual tips, energy, and I'll pull cards for all of the 12 signs for you guys, okay? Okay, so I want to read you the Sabian symbol really quick, and then we will get into the cards for each and every one of the 12 signs. We're going to look at the Sabian symbol for 12 degrees of Aries, the Sabian symbol screen of prophecy. Those of you guys who aren't aware, if you check my links below, I've got an Amazon link. So if you're like, what books is she reading? What does she use? You can find that there. As always, we're going to read the degree up because it's going to be 11 degrees and change. So Aries 12, a flock of wild geese. The theme is high flight. The symbol speaks to the desire of the individual to lift himself above the superficial limitations of everyday living. The image of a flock of wild geese suggests yearning for the light-hearted freedom, such as might be experienced by the geese in flight, but eventually, like migrating geese, every individual who achieves such a state must eventually come back down to earth and take up where he left off. Although the symbol can indicate a naive attempt to mentally or physically escape unpleasant or difficult situations, there is a safety in numbers quality to this image. The implication here is that the individual prefers the security of the group and would be reluctant to strike out on their own journey to freedom. At its highest, it represents naive detachment, optimism, and idealism. Watch for superficial thinking, overdependence of opinions of others. The accent is on travel, social events, and freedom. You may be dreaming about a faraway place, needing to get away from it all. Do something light and fun where it doesn't seem to be where you are, doesn't seem where you want to be. Responsibility weighs heavily on your shoulders, and you're simply not in the mood for deep thinking or serious decision making. Your greatest advantage lies in keeping a positive attitude and helping others to do the same. Guard against the impulse to abandon your responsibilities, ignore things you'd rather not to have to face, going along with the crowd to avoid confrontation, or letting others do your thinking for you will create even bigger problems. Mercury in, literally Mercury in Taurus, what I think about my values, squaring Saturn. This is super bang on, guys, this month. Super, super bang on. All right, so let's pull out my romantic Victorian deck. Please listen for your rising sign and your sun and your moon. These are Western whole sign predictions. So I'm gonna first tell you guys where the new moon's taking place, where you're gonna have that fresh start for manifesting. I will then tell you where the Mars, Saturn, Venus conjunction in Aquarius is taking place, which is very karmic. It's squaring the nodes of the moon. So it's reiterating now is the time to upgrade your values when it comes to this part of your life. So you want to look at where Aries is, where Aquarius is. They're helping each other. They're talking to each other. They're creating sextiles. But yeah, that Mars, Venus, Saturn conjunction is now is the time to implement more commitment, more boundaries, more love, more motivation, and really focusing on raising your vibrations in that part of your life. So for Aries and Aries rising, a lot of what I've been saying pertains to you. You guys get more context, I think, than anybody else. Everything that I've been talking about in regards to the energies, you know, how it's playing out specifically for you, it's going to be in your first house. It can be a great time for a haircut, being a great time for just setting new goals for yourself in the direction of where you're going with your life. It can be a time where I think you're just more focused on goals and perhaps maybe even being around individuals or people who are going to be inspiring you to be more independent and to kind of march to the beat of your own drum. These conjunctions in Aquarius are happening in your 11th house, which is all about your goals, your friendships, your associations. Realizing that you're trying to align yourself with like-minded people who can serve as a motivation to help you achieve the things that you want to be achieving in your life. Card that I get is the Page of Cups. Many Aries risings may meet a very significant partnership or a person, I guess, in the next month. Primarily because you've got your chart ruler, Mars and Venus, your 7th house ruler, meeting in the 11th. So maybe it's like you're finally feeling like you're meeting friends or you're meeting romantic partners or you're meeting groups or associations that have the same values as you. And you're so really adamant about achieving your dreams that you're only wanting to surround yourself with people who are just as equally positive and self-starters and self-sufficient. The Page of Cups can be talking about realizing your emotional goals or making a really nice, sweet connection to somebody that feels good and it feels like you're wanting to nurture that and you're wanting to go further with it. They could be a water sign, so it could be a Cancer or a Scorpio or a Pisces. Regardless, it feels good to, I think, be in this situation and be around like-minded people, and it's giving you hope for future relationships. For Taurus and Taurus rising, we have a new moon taking place in Aries. It's in your 12th house. It's going to have you hiding out a little bit. It's going to have you kind of in your head a little bit. It's about retreating and reflecting more on your personal beliefs and what you believe about yourself and what you feel like you need to be completing spiritually or subconsciously behind the scenes. You have got a Mars, Saturn, Venus conjunction lining up in your 10th house of career. So there's tons of work on your plate. it's like you're slammed. You really have to show up. Other people are relying on you. There's lots of responsibilities, whether this is in your career or your responsibility for others, your responsibility for a partner, your responsibility as a parent. And part of you just really wants to hide out. But the other part of you realizes that you have to show up because on the other side of this, there's like a vacation. You're going to get a bit of a break actually at the end of April going into May. You can retreat a little bit. You can take some time off. You can go to another country. You're going to be able to kind of have a little bit more time to just rest and recuperate. But there's a lot of heavy lifting right now. And you got to get something out the door, or you got to wrap something up, or you have to sell something or launch something before you do this. People are really relying on you, and in a lot of ways, whatever you're setting up here as a result of these conjunctions taking place in your 10th house is laying the groundwork for what is probably going to be some very, very, very important and very prominent changes in your professional career life moving forward. So if you do this work now, you're going to actually kick back and go, oh my gosh, it went well. I'm so glad that I did that. And I'm glad that I went and went full steam ahead on that project. Otherwise, I think it's doing yourself a disservice. You know, the 12th house energy, can you like being like a CEO and you're working, you know, in private rooms and doing meetings and all kinds of things. And that's a great way to use the 12th house new moon. If you're not being proactive and if you're not doing that, then you're going to find that you're getting so frustrated at work that you're like wanting to call in sick and not show up. Be mindful. Card that I get is the 4 of Swords. So yeah, you're tired. You do need rest. I think it is reminding you that maybe if you're changing your work habits and you're putting more of an emphasis on making time to rest and regroup and like wind down, you're not going to be coming to some of these points in time where you're like, I have so much on my table and I don't know if I can do it, right? So 4 of Swords reminds us that we do need to rest and recuperate. There is a need for you to do that. So try not to continue to keep working the way that you've been working. I know it's hard when when you're a Taurus, but I think that if you're experiencing burnout, it's like the universe's way of saying like you actually have to do the work when it comes to hiring other people, delegating tasks, making things easier, staying on time, things like that, managing time better, and bringing the group together so that way you're not feeling like you have to do it all on your own. For Gemini and Gemini rising, we've got a new moon happening in your 11th house of goals, groups, networking, association, friendships, setting goals to be more proactive. Maybe you're joining a group, maybe you're starting a group, either or. But I think that you're just more focused on taking action and being the friend that you want to be in the world. I think that you have like a go-getter mentality. I think it's going to be very social for you for the next couple of weeks, really for the next couple of months. You've also got a conjunction with Mars, Venus, and Saturn, square the nodes, all happening in your 9th house of Aquarius. It's a sister sign. To me, it seems like you're realizing you can have friends all over the world. You're realizing that the more that you join groups and participate in groups and associations, you're going to grow friendships. Some of you guys are realizing that your goals are to write, teach, publish, travel. Some of you guys also are just really interested in like meeting other people through travel or perhaps through continuing education aspects, right? One other thing I would say is that with these conjunctions happening in your 9th house, some of you guys are having delays or limitations or blocks with travel or having issues when it comes to legal problems, legal matters, especially if you're having to go through a lawsuit or you're having to file something or you're feeling like you have no other choice. So maybe you have to go and ask a friend for a referral or you join a professional network or a union so that way you can have your rights covered. Card that I get is the 3 of Cups. Great card. Celebrating, partying, having a good time, feeling like you've accomplished something. Looks like you've got people who've got your back. It also looks like you might go to a party or a gathering or a get-together where you can network with other people. For Cancer and Cancer rising, we've got a new moon happening in your 10th house. Ooh, Cancer. You may feel like it's all on you right now. You might feel like, okay, you know what? I have no other choice. I have to man the team. I have no other choice but start my own business. I have to start putting myself first. I have to focus on where I'm going with my image, with what I'm doing. And it's gonna be some uncomfortable energy for you, naturally, and all of the other cardinal signs. I would say you more than ever are having issues revolving around being in the spotlight. It's like some of you guys are going to get a lot of spotlight, but you're not going to know how to deal with it. And some of you guys are also possibly just feeling like this heaviness revolving around whether or not you feel good enough, right? Good enough to put yourself out there. It's like, is anybody gonna buy my product? Is anybody gonna wanna hire me? Like, you have to be really focusing on building up your self-esteem, reminding yourself that sometimes it's not just about money, it's about the overall sense of feeling good and accomplished, doing it for yourself. Now you've got a Mars, Saturn, Venus conjunction in the 8th house, and that's Aquarius. Intuitively, I kind of feel like it's about you possibly learning that it may take money to make money. You may feel kind of like the crunch financially where you're like, I want to launch my own business, but I don't have the money, or I don't feel like I have the support, or I got burned in the past, or I'm having issues with my credit. There's some psychological triggers and traumas going on. Some of you guys are feeling the need to really stand up for yourself, to friendships, perhaps cutting off situationships. You know, there's a lot happening in the 8th house with Mars and Venus. It's representing this huge change and transformation of your home life and your public image. Some of you guys are dividing assets. Some of you guys are mourning, going through a death. You're grieving something and having to deal with a rebirth of your assets in some capacity. All right, so the card that I get is Ace of Wands. Burn it all down. Start over. Ace of Wands is saying it's a new beginning. So literally a new beginning, Ace of Wands, new moon happening in your 10th house. Go big or go home. Focus on what drives you. Focus on what you're passionate about. Focus on what's going to be most creatively fulfilling. Follow your heart and know that if you do this, it'll be like wildfire. You'll see very quickly that there's massive change in your life. I do see more wealth and abundance coming for you, but you have to realize that everything is in balance right now, and it's not just about what other people give you, but what you're giving other people. For Leo and Leo rising, you got a new moon happening in Aries in your 9th house, which is a sister sign. Some of you guys might be traveling, studying, having new beliefs and philosophies. Maybe you're just planning a solo trip, right? Some of you guys, I think, are also just changing your belief systems in general. And it's a great time to shift the way that you believe about yourself, like what you believe in, like how you see yourself when it comes to what you can accomplish, when it comes to where you can go, literally or figuratively speaking. You've got a Mars, Venus, Saturn conjunction in your 7th, and it's... wow. Some of you guys are really focused on going the distance in a relationship. Some of you guys are having conflicts and lots of arguments, and there can be people cutting or severing things off with you this month. There's definitely going to be a lot of fierceness in your one-on-one interactions with people. Some of you guys are dealing with some legal matters or some lawsuits. It really depends. It's not all doom or gloom, but for Leos and Leo risings, it is definitely a make or break time, and you can be feeling like you're having lots of conflict, agitation. You and a partner aren't seeing eye to eye about travel, culture, religion, beliefs, or whether or not you guys are interested in actually going the distance, committing to each other legally, getting married, or being involved in a ceremony. Star card. Thank God. I was getting a little nervous there. The star card does represent Aquarius. It does represent healing, something that is going to heal afterwards. Perhaps maybe it's a situation where it's like, hey, this isn't working, but let's be friends. Perhaps this is the healing that comes after a heated argument, right? It can be that you smooth everything over. To be honest with you, Leo, this energy is going to come back up again in May. It's going to come back up again in your birthday. You're going to keep seeing that this whole year is every 3 months reevaluating and recentering the scales between you, your career, and your relationships. Right now, pick your battles wisely. Even though this is a positive card, there are some things that I think you could save yourself a lot of drama by just focusing on healing yourself and not feeling like you need to go toe-to-toe with somebody if they're not ready for what you're ready for. Believe in yourself. Virgo and Virgo rising, you got a new moon happening in your 8th house. It's going to bring out all the skeletons in the closet where there is a need to heal and deal with old wounds, issues revolving around letting go, death, loss, new identities, and financial situations with other people. You've also got a Mars, Saturn, Venus conjunction happening in your 6th house, which is telling me it's like some of you guys are still processing breakups and endings. Some of you guys are coming off the heels of realizing you're having job or schedule changes. Some of you guys are afraid about what's going on in terms of resources. You're afraid about bringing money in. You're really needing to get a job. Maybe some of you guys are realizing that addictions or bad habits are connected to emotional or psychological triggers, and you need to detox, right? 6th house can be dealing with accidents and injuries. 8th house can be dealing with, some unexpected, not so pleasant events as well. However, I believe because these two are working together, that through the breakdown that you're seeing in your daily routine, your health, or even your coworkers, you can change and transform the way that you respond to that emotionally different. Ooh, King of Pentacles. Looks like you're not going to let things rock you. You're really committed to being like, no, I'm going to deal with the situation on hand. I'm going to fix it. I'm going to really take a look at what's going on financially, health-wise, maybe what I'm eating, things like that. Being that this is representing a earth sign in general, and the master, because it's a king, it's telling me that you're going to come out on top, and maybe you're finally tackling a financial, a work, or a health-related issue, and you're coming out the other side of it stronger and more financially or health-wise solid. For Libra rising, you got a new moon happening in your 7th house of relationships, which is kind of the natural energy for you. It's a little bit backwards, Libra. Whenever you're dealing with the 7th house, yes, it's other people, so you get a fresh new start when it comes to relationships, but not without clearing the air. So if you're single and you're looking for somebody new, great time to be manifesting, setting the stage for that, as long as it's somebody who's done the work and they're really ready. 2, if you are partnered and you're in a relationship, it's about how you can better your relationships with other people through paying better attention to yourself. 7th house can indicate where you need to have conflict or you need to air things out with people so you can really better balance the scales with yourself. I think that really how it's going to manifest for you, Libra, especially because you also have this Mars, Saturn, Venus conjunction happening in your 5th house. This is important. It's involving your chart ruler. Something about your 5th house, creativity, what the heart wants, joy, children, pregnancy, anything relating to what you're creating and giving birth to. It's like, be so committed to happiness and creativity and fun that you're willing to go to war over it. Anybody that disrupts the peace, anybody who's not willing to focus on being a team player, anybody who's not on the same page about what your heart wants, you got to hash that out, right? But the 5th house deals with rebirth, renewal, also your own creative desires, and the 7th is union. So you want to share with somebody where you've been frustrated because you can't feel like you can have fun or be authentic. Where if there is a goal for you to get pregnant, have a baby, be able to fall in love, get married, partner with somebody and say, hey, let's do it together, there can be outbursts that can come from that. The Hierophant. So the Hierophant is talking, it can be talking about a Taurus. It can also be talking about you going back and forth with your traditions and what you're committed to, or what is traditional, or what is expected of you. Realize with Aquarius in your 5th house and Aries in your 7th, there is a tendency to, sometimes rush relationships and do love, or the concept or idea of having a family or children different. You're looking a lot at structure. So I think that this also can represent Saturn. So it can be talking about, because Saturn and Mars are meeting in your 5th, you're like, I'm not willing to accept anything less than this. There is society's pressures coming through, where there is a sense of you feeling like you need to go and get insight from another person, or somebody who's going to give you advice and point you in the right direction. Can be a therapist, can be a mentor, can be a reading, can be a teacher, or just somebody who has been there, done that, and can help you talk about the best way to make both parties happy and make your dreams come true. For Scorpio and Scorpio rising, you've got a new moon in your 6th house. This is all about new intentions when it comes to dealing with healing crises, issues with your schedule where you feel like you don't have enough time for yourself. If you want to hit the gym, focus more on how you're eating, how you're feeling. Wow, that card jumped out. Now is the time. So if you want to get a gym membership, if you want to start going to hot yoga, if you just want to start running, let's say you're like, I just want to have time for myself. It's not even about physical stuff. It's just time for me to get my things done and for me to feel good. Pay attention. There may be things that come up for Scorpio risings where there's a healing crisis, where there's some digestional issues, or there's something going on with your reproductive issues, or something going on hormonally that comes to your attention with this new moon, where you're like, I got to make a change. I have to change it, Aries. Now you've also got a stellium of planets like Mars, Venus, and Saturn setting up in your 4th house, square the nose. Scorpio rising, this is important. Pay attention because it's involving your chart ruler. Mars and Saturn are bringing conflicts and quarrels in your home base. whether it's just feeling like you're bogged down by never-ending responsibilities at home, where you feel like you're running around having to do everything, fix everything, clean everything. It is Saturn and Mars saying, hey, you are responsible. This is the karma. Venus is in the mix, which tells me that it can be about difficult relationships with family or people who you're living with, and this feeling where both parties are needing to do more, to commit more to communicating when it comes to tasks around the home. You might need to talk about possibly moving, changing the house, maybe family, difficult conversations with family can be coming up as well. I want to remind you that as soon as this conjunction ends, things are going to calm down. But you, as well as Leo and Aquarius rising, are going to feel this a lot more intensely. The fact that Venus is factored in is going to sweeten things a little bit, so it's about how you can better relate to other people. So if you're feeling stressed in regards to your schedule or your health, it's important to talk about it. Thankfully, the Sun card jumped out, so it's basically saying it's highlighting that for you. It's highlighting where you're not taking good care of yourself. It's highlighting where you're running yourself ragged, right? Or you haven't been able to feel like you can get enough of your own things done. It's going to bring you happiness and joy by actually getting more active, maybe being in the sun more. If you're going through some heavy Saturn transits, yoga, being out in the sunshine, warm herbs, things like that can be really helpful. Scorpio risings in particular, watch for digestional issues because that can come up this month. Then we've got Sag and Sag rising. This is a new moon in your 5th house, which is dealing with creativity, children, passion, self-employment, hobbies, going out on dates, having fun, and just really interacting more with your inner child. Especially with the 5th house Aries, it's a sister sign, so it funnels positive energy into your chart. Then you've got a Mars-Venus-Saturn conjunction setting up in your 3rd house. So this is interesting. 5th house is how we experience joy, express ourselves, play, but we've got Mars, Venus, and Saturn in the 3rd. So to me, I think what could be beneficial for you guys is journaling, going for walks, getting into the habit of finding more constructive ways to speak to yourself, speak about yourself, speak to your inner child, communicate when it comes to children, or about your childhood in general. You may feel a little hesitant to communicate and share where you've been in the past. Perhaps maybe some of you guys are doing some self-help stuff, or you're like learning new techniques like breath work, or you're listening to self-help podcasts and audiobooks while you're working out or you're walking around, so you can better kind of manage this energy. But for the most part, a new moon in your 5th house is great if you want to start a new hobby, something creative, launch your own personal business soon, or maybe even you're just thinking about cutting loose, going on vacation more, and really kind of making more time for fun, and you're telling people that that's a goal that you have for the future. The card that I get is the 6 of Pentacles. So a little bit of give and take, right? It can be communicating with people and saying, hey, I'll cover your shift. I've got something coming up in a month. Can you cover mine? There can be a sense of, what you put into things is what you get. So if you're putting more positivity in terms of how you're speaking about yourself and just out into the world, you're going to see it come back to you. This is also about asking for help and giving help. So there may be opportunities for you to give some kind of insight and help other people, especially if it's a sibling, cousin, aunt, uncle, neighbor maybe. They can be calling you and asking you for help, and you're like, well, this is what I do to maintain positivity and happiness, or vice versa. Regardless, ask for help if you need it, but also be willing to step forward and give insights and tips to people who may be calling and asking for it. Capricorn and Cap rising, you got a new moon in your 4th house, which is a wonderful time to set intentions for your home, where you want to live, where you're going. Some of you guys are thinking about moving. Some of you guys are looking to, go to new places later this year, travel back home, buy a house, expand your home. This is the moon that you start setting those intentions and you start thinking about it. Maybe you have to look for a place. Maybe you're getting your own place for the very first time. Maybe you just want to have a little bit more alone time. You need your own room in a house, or you have to travel solo to go and visit family soon. But you've got a Mars, Venus, Saturn conjunction setting up in the 2nd house, and it involves Saturn, which is your chart ruler. Between the 2nd and the 4th, it tells me you may be having to kind of buckle down really seriously when it comes to your money and your resources, because you're planning on buying a house, expanding your family, updating or renovating something within the home. Equally, it could be that you're really focusing on your self-esteem, your values, budgeting, and everything like that. So you're just starting to feel better about yourself emotionally. But when I see sextiles between the 2nd and the 4th, it tells me either handling resources and self-esteem so you feel better emotionally supported and physically supported within a home, or you're having to develop your own new personal set of talents so that way you're feeling more secure. One of these two things is going to stick. That conjunction tells me for Capricorn, Capricorn rising, it's got to stick to a budget. You can't be just blowing through money. You can't be going out and partying. You can't be giving money to friends. Things like that might be difficult. You're learning that in order to have a good time, you don't have to break the bank. Don't let money define you. Wow, you're still going to have a good time. Looks like you're going to be partying with Gemini. 3 of Cups, having a good time, going out there. Maybe money's tight and you have a friend that's like, I'll treat you, right? Let's go out and have a good time. Don't worry about it. I got you. It's feeling rich and abundant with friendships or with a group or people that are around you. So you may not feel like you can afford all the bells and whistles right now, but you're abundant in many ways, especially when you look around and see who's in your corner, who's supporting you, right? It's like the friend that invites you over for a family meal, and it's kind of hard maybe making ends meet right now, and it's just the thing that you needed in order to feel safe and secure. Regardless, you've got people who are on your side, and to me it looks like you have a lot to celebrate. For Aquarius and Aquarius rising, you got a new moon in Aries in your 3rd house, which is getting you all fired up and communicative. You're focusing on traveling more, maybe a new vehicle. You might be wanting to learn a new language. Maybe you're thinking about traveling soon, so you're like, yeah, this would be a good idea. Possibly also you're thinking more about just taking a course, learning something, traveling somewhere on your own, going for drives to clear your mind, things like that. And there is a stellium of planets in your 3rd, which makes me wonder, are you moving? Are you moving out on your own? Are you having to talk to a sibling who's going through a difficult time? Now, similar to Scorpio and Leo and Taurus, you're in the hot seat. We've got Mars, Venus, and Saturn sitting in your sign, squaring the nodes. Yes, a lot's changing with your career. Your identity's changing. Some of you guys are going from being married to divorce. Some of you guys are going from working from a big company to being like, I quit my job. I know it's a scary time. A lot's changing. There's a lot on your shoulders, a lot of responsibility. But with these squares to the nodes, you are given the opportunity to redefine your boundaries, who you are in the world, what works for you, what doesn't, and it's all very assertive. And how you communicate and what you express over the next couple of weeks is going to define where you live, how you're feeling in the world. And in a way, it's uncomfortable, but it's a fresh new start, Aquarius. 8 of Cups. So yes, you do have to walk away from certain situations. You do have to say enough is enough. I'm sorry, I quit. I can't be with you anymore, or I'm moving out, or I need something new. But what I'll tell you is what you're walking away from, you have a whole lot to gain. You won't start to see this until June, but when this does shift, you'll realize that it was probably one of the best things that could have happened for you. I feel like Aquarius and Scorpio are going to be the ones that are going to probably get hit the hardest. So just be prepared that if there are certain things that are just not coming together, they keep falling apart, let them fall away and be willing to walk away and not look in the rearview mirror. Last but not least, we got Pisces and Pisces rising. We've got a new moon in your 2nd house in Aries, which is all about the money you make and your motivation, your goals revolving around your resources. Now, we've also got a stellium of planets, Mars, Venus, and Saturn, hanging out in your 12th house. So to me, it's like you're going after what you want. You're releasing fears, you're releasing old anger, frustration. You're really adamant about claiming something, coming into your personal power, feeling like you have achieved something, and letting go of all of these old, outdated goals, these fears, these frustrations, all of these things that energetically hold you back from being able to come into a state of going, I've got this, physically, emotionally, financially. Now, the good news is in the months ahead, you're going to see Jupiter and Mars ingress into your 2nd house. So you doing this clearing work right now is really going to help you come into the sense of feeling really secure. And when you get rid of all of the doubts and all of the feelings of maybe it won't work, or the craziness that's going on with the conjunctions in your 12th house, be mindful that there's a difference between being ambitious and going after something ruthlessly. Because there can be an energy of going after something ruthlessly, which doesn't make sense for Pisces. But it will make sense because you're so adamant about being like, I just want this thing, I gotta have it, and I'll stop at nothing until it's mine. Be careful with that, because there can be a sense with all those planets in your 12th house where things are winding down, right? You're actually releasing and you're letting go of people, and there's a need to do that so that way you can embrace the new. Don't get too hung up on the materialism. So one thing that I would say with this aspect, know that later in the month, things get a little bit sweeter when Venus and Jupiter and Neptune align. It can be feeling like your dreams are coming true and everything's coming together. The card that I get is the 8 of Wands. So it looks like you're like, no, I'm gonna go after what I want. I'm not gonna stop. I'm just gonna keep going. 8 of Wands is full steam ahead. It's eyes on the prize. It's things moving very quickly. It's knowing that you have to move very quickly. Maybe you know that there's certain time periods and windows that you're working with, and you want to feel like you're not missing your opportunity. Do not rush through things though. Keep in mind that at the end of May, going into June, it can be another time where there can be a launch. So maybe it's a lot of working behind the scenes and organizing and planning and manifesting and reflecting on how you're actually going to shoot your shot later this year. All right, guys, hopefully that was helpful for you. Let me know, where is this new moon happening in your chart? How's it affecting you? Are you feeling it already? Have you been feeling the sun's ingress into Aries? Are you excited for some of these conjunctions? We've had some insight for a while, having had Saturn in Aquarius for 2 years. Jupiter was there last year, and we had a Mercury retrograde. Many of you guys already know the direction that you're going in. Now it's just time to get everything in order and execute our plans. Try to keep the anger and the frustration at bay. Count to 10, take your time, breathe. I would love to hear how all of this is playing out for you. As always, thank you so much for watching my channel, for commenting, liking, sharing, and subscribing. I will see all of you guys later this week. We'll be back with the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction, and let's take a look at these eclipses at the end of April. Take care.